Genes are either on or they're off. They're either coming through strong or they're coming through real weak. And you can control how these genes express themselves through nutrition alone. That's food. That's the chemicals in regular food. Knowing how to use that can take you from health drinks to magic potions that let you grow your brain. Not only can you manipulate your genes with food and the chemicals in it alone, you can build new neurons in your mind, which is new physical architecture that allows you to have enhanced cognition. You can literally eat yourself smarter. A lot of people don't know about it, or if they do know about this, they haven't learned the details that are missing from most information that allow you to take this from the health drinks you see on the shelves to something that is, rivaling like drug medications. Allegedly, don't kill me. Studies show that improved nutrition done properly in the way that we're gonna do can literally take you to double-digit percentages of improved cognition. That's like different types of tests that are similar to IQ tests and stuff. People are going double-digit percentages in test on their mind in weeks just by proper nutrition. So I think that's an important thing that everybody needs to know, because right now we're low-key in like a cognition crisis. Gen Z, a lot of them can't even read properly, and I love to make fun of them about it, but at some point, like, we do need to address the issue, and the issue, at least one of them, can be that we are also in a food crisis, so we need to use what we have and use it properly to give people the right nutrition to improve their minds enough to at least make things easier so they can be smart enough to make better decisions, and making better decisions will make them at least easier to live with for all of us. So the 3 pillars of potion making are going to be bioavailability, solubility, and loading dose. So bioavailability is going to be, can your body actually absorb this, and how much is it actually absorbing? Solubility is going to be, is this fat soluble? Is it water soluble? Because knowing that is going to help us ingest it and get more of it in us better, and have it in a form that we can actually absorb it, right? And then loading dose is going to be how much we actually need at any one time to have enough of it. Because a lot of people, especially with turmeric, so many people, especially in the health space, have heard turmeric is good for you, so they go buy some turmeric, of course, and they sprinkle it on their food. And they're not getting anything from that, quite honestly. But I understand why they would do it, because that's what you do. You hear it's good, you go get some, you sprinkle a little on it. You don't want to ruin your food with turmeric, but you do need quite a bit of it to get a good dose, and that's what the golden milk latte does. It allows you to get quite a lot of turmeric in you, and if you make it decently, it won't taste too bad. But I'll be honest with you, we are going for its benefits more than we're going for taste here. Okay, so we're gonna make 1 serving of our first absolutely magical neuron building, inflammation killing potion that is gonna allow our minds to expand. So for our first ingredient here, I have turmeric. This is doing most of the heavy lifting. We're doing the turmeric because what we're trying to get out of it is our bioactive compound, which is curcumin. Curcumin is amazing. It might as well be a little miracle ingredient. The problem that most people have when they're trying to do turmeric, because most people in the health space have heard at some point that turmeric is like so good for you. But the problem is that most people get some and they sprinkle a little on their food. You might have noticed this is a very large bag. Here's my head next to it, and I have a large head. So you need a loading dose, which is on our 3 pillars. Your loading dose for turmeric is going to be 2 teaspoons. So for our 1 dosage, our singular serving golden milk latte that we're doing here, we're going to start out with 2 teaspoons of turmeric. All right. So, drinking this before you go to sleep is a really good idea because it can get to percolating and working on your brain while you're sleeping. You can drink this, go to sleep, wake up with way less inflammation, and already feel like you're becoming a different person who thinks clearer and does things and wants to get out of bed in the morning, stuff like that. So we've got our 2 teaspoons of the turmeric. That is going to be your loading dose, not our little garnish, not our little spice dose, because honestly, I hate to say it, the little dash of turmeric is not doing anything for you. But honestly, even all this, if we just drank this down like we have it now, that's not going to do much for you either, unfortunately. Because, well, first, before we get into that, let's get into more of the science behind curcumin itself before we get into interactions. So, curcumin is our bioactive compound, as I've said, and it's the primary bioactive compound. There are others. So, curcumin is doing 2 super important things at the molecular level, right? So, first, it's inhibiting NF-κB, which is a master regulator of inflammation. So, this can be inflammation of the brain. A lot of people have inflammation in their brain and they don't even know it. And in my experience, I'll tell you, inflammation of the brain makes you stupid. If you felt more stupid from 1 month to the next, that's real stuff. That is really happening, and it can be dealt with, actually. And the dealing with it isn't a hard thing to do, but sometimes learning all of the information at once can be difficult to get a hold of. So that's what we're doing here in our potions class. We're given all the information that you need to get these interactions just right, to get your dosage just right, so that you can be your own pharmacy at home. And not even necessarily a pharmacy for, like, let's say the flu or something, but a different type of potions lab where you get to make awesome things like the brain growth drink. And then in 6 months, see yourself and actually be smarter. Like true brewing in the cauldron type shit, right? Okay, so let's get back to it. So the NF-κB is our master inflammation switch, right? So NF-κB is a protein that when it's activated, it will enter the nucleus of your cell, right? I'm looking at my notes, but they're good notes. And it's going to turn on hundreds of inflammatory genes, right? So inflammatory genes being on, bad, because inflammation, bad, right? And everybody has heard that too. Inflammation is bad, but we hear it so much that it starts to lose its meaning sometimes. But inflammation in your brain, I'll tell you just from like doing this to myself, it really is the difference between being able to like sit there and struggle real hard to read a paragraph and having like 3 of these made right 3 days in a row, and then suddenly being able to sit for hours and read and be like, oh my god, like I forgot I could do that. So like that's how important it is to like deal with inflammation, especially of the mind. That is how it can affect you. It really will take you from like smart to stupid in days. Okay, so when NF-κB is overactive, because we need some inflammation. It's like it signals to us like, oh, you're sick, you need this, you need that, let's fix you up. But when it's like chronic and it's happening all the time, this is obviously bad. And that's what most people have, is chronic inflammation, because we get inflammation from all of these like negative things in our environment, you know, like the bad stuff in the food, the air, the water, you know, coming at us from all angles, right? So given there is so much in our environment causing this inflammation, it is a really good idea to be brewing up some potions that are turning off those inflammatory gene switches. And that's what you're doing when you are properly consuming curcumin and turning off that NF-κB protein, right? And again, when it's chronic, it's really bad. So that's going to be stuff like you're getting Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes, depression, and autoimmune disease. You know, like it can start manifesting into very awful things. But curcumin is going to physically bind itself to the NF-κB protein, and it's going to prevent it from entering the nucleus. So it can't turn on those inflammatory genes, right? So that is good. Inflammatory genes cannot come on, good. Don't want inflammation, right? So the effect is going to be measurable in your blood work within 30 to 60 minutes of consuming that dose. Like, that's almost instant in my book. So this is like really good stuff. You can start getting benefits immediately, and I will say from my own experience, I can feel it immediately. Like I start thinking clearer immediately. So that study about feeling the measurable effects within 30 to 60 minutes is, or that information actually comes from a study, and that study is Argwal and Harry Kumar, 2009. Citation on the screen, hopefully. So, like, this isn't just, like, basic inflammation reducing. You're genuinely doing molecular intervention. Magic potions. You hear what I'm saying? It's a mix of brewing in a cauldron, right? But that cauldron is in a lab in, like, an Atlantean dungeon, right? Imagine the space looks a bit different. Second thing that curcumin is doing that is fantastic is it's activating NRF2, right? And NRF2 is the master switch for antioxidants in your defense system, right? So NRF2 turns on over 200 genes that produce antioxidants, repair DNA, neutralize toxins, and clear out damaged proteins. And the best part about NRF2 and NF-κB is that they work in opposition, right? Which means activating one is going to suppress the other. So, and because of the way they work, that's beneficial for you. So you're going to get a double benefit. That's less inflammation and more cellular protection. The issue with just our turmeric, our bioactive compound, curcumin, on its own is that alone the bioavailability, one of our main pillars of potions, is no bueno. You know, it kind of sucks. So you could eat a whole like tablespoon of turmeric and absorb almost nothing. But that's where our next ingredient is going to come in. And so I'm already about to give you like some great knowledge here because I made the same mistake, but I won't let you make the same mistake. I was thinking maybe I'd put this in the upgraded recipe, but let's start you off strong. So our next ingredient is going to be black pepper, right? And this is how most of the mixes have it, right? So we got this is one I got from Grocery Outlet for a while. Solid golden milk latte that got me started and hooked on this stuff. But this one, regular organic. This one's regenerative, very fancy, very expensive, right? And also, you know, good, like whatever. But the thing with these is they're for convenience, right? So regardless if it's regenerative ingredients, these, and I'm sure these are like good and like test grade. But what's happening is we're all powder forms. Some things in powder form are stable and fine, and other things degrade very, very quickly, right? So when it comes to black pepper, I bought this to make my big bulk batch for myself, right? And that's great stuff and works very well, but I already had whole black pepper. I just thought this would be easier, right? But then I did more research because this is all about truly brewing the brew, right? And here's the thing with black pepper. Black pepper is amazing. People will call certain things like a superfood. Black pepper is like a super potion ingredient. Like people like if you're doing witchcraft, which I think coming from stupid to smart through nutrition is absolute witchcraft. Oh, you're gonna need a lot of this. You're gonna want to spend money on top dollar black pepper, baby, and you're gonna want to get yourself a grinder because fantastically convenient this, right? But the issue is that within. Okay, so let me back up. Did I get into the science even? Back up. Bioavailability, right? So let's add our black pepper. So for this, we're gonna need just a couple cracks. So it's gonna be 1/4 of a teaspoon. And my 1/4 of a teaspoon is this one. And instead of measuring that messily, I'm just gonna crack this in and then we'll get into the science. Okay, so we ground it in fresh instead of using this shit that I just spent money on. Because I've learned recently that black pepper degrades extremely fast. And we don't want it to degrade fast. And it's not about taste. It's about the science, the chemical effects, the synergistic effects of the pepperin in the black pepper with their curcumin, right? So pepperin is a compound within the pepper, and it increases the bioavailability of the curcumin by up to 2,000%. 2,000. You know, so we're talking about eating that tablespoon of turmeric and getting nothing. So black pepper is going to change that significantly. 20 times more bioavailable, right? Just with that alone, right? But here's the issue with this, right? Pepperin is like a really volatile. So pre-ground pepper loses 50% or more of its pepperin within 24 to 48 hours of being cracked. You know, so when you're making a true master potion, top science, mad scientist in your Atlantean pyramid lab type shit, you're going to want to be cracking that pepper fresh every time. You can go with this. You can. But realistically, scientifically, what the studies are saying is it's just for taste at that point, and you're lucky to even have taste at that point. So I say that to say, when you get a mix like this really is the best you can do, because as far as convenience, it's already there. You scoop it, you make your drink. But the black pepper in here is ground black pepper that has probably been in there for months and months and months. You have no idea when the black pepper was picked, when it was this, when it was packaged, when it was ground into this, when it was sold to you. You know, there's a long chain happening, and a lot of degradation can happen. So if you are getting something pre-made like this, I would say crack your own black pepper at the very least. And in this, we just did. So we've already, right there, we've already increased bioavailability by 2,000% right here. But bioavailability, unfortunately, isn't all that we need. That's why potions really is a whole class and a series of sciences that you need to learn how these things get together. But our three pillars cover the majority of things that you need to know. So our next thing that we're going to add is our coconut milk powder, right? And this is going to cover our next layer of science as well. So I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of the coconut milk powder. Or sorry, I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of coconut milk powder, but you could also use 1 teaspoon of coconut oil, right? Alright, there we go. I don't know why I can't open this bag without making a mess. That's coconut milk. Okay, so our next level of science right here with our coconut milk powder. So we've got the turmeric, which is our curcumin, we've got our black pepper, which is our pepperin, and we've got our coconut milk powder, which is our fat and also has our medium chain triglycerides, our MCT oils, right? And also our lauric acid, can't forget the lauric acid. So here's the thing. So while we've already increased the bioavailability by 2000% with the pepperin, this is like, how can I explain this? You've made weed brownies, right? So think about the science of the weed brownie. That's the best way that I can explain all of this. And in fact, this story probably should have been at the top of the entire episode. So with weed brownies, you're not gonna just boil some weed in some water and add that water to your weed brownie mix, right? Because sure, you'll end up with brownies that taste like marijuana, but that's not what we're doing it for, right? We're not doing it for taste. We want to feel something. And to feel something, we have to put this THC that is in the marijuana needs to get taken out and put into us by fat. Because the THC is fat soluble, and solubility is one of the 3 pillars of potions, right? So once we put the THC in the fat, which is probably going to be our butter if we're making brownies, then we can eat the brownie, and the THC carried by the fat will both get in us, probably going to taste like weed, but this time it's also going to get us high because we have properly transported the THC, the active ingredient we're looking for, into ourselves by knowing how it's soluble, right? So everything is like that. All food, all the chemicals and all the foods are just like that. And by knowing these things about the foods and the spices and all the stuff that we're eating, we can turn just random drinks and spices and all that stuff into truly magical potions that can literally build architecture in your mind that makes you smarter. And I mean, isn't that enough? So curcumin is fat soluble, right? Not water soluble. That means it's not going to dissolve in water. Just like the THC, it's got to dissolve in fat. So that's why we've put our coconut milk powder. That is fat. You could use, like I said, a teaspoon of coconut oil as well. Some people do both. Do what you like, whatever you've got on you. So black pepper is gonna like open the door to bioavailability and up the bioavailability, but without the fat to attach all of this to, you're not actually going to experience any of the benefits of that bioavailability, much like drinking the weed water as opposed to the wheat butter, right? Plus, coconut oil and coconut fat itself is very beneficial. The MCTs, the medium chain triglycerides, are easily absorbed and they provide quick energy to your system. And lauric acid is microbial or antimicrobial. So, our last ingredient here is going to be our ginger, and we're going to add half a teaspoon of ginger powder. Let's see, that's a quarter. Here's half. Okay, so let's get this in there. Alright, here we go. Alright, so ginger contains gingerols, which is a compound that's kind of similar to curcumin, because it also inhibits NF-κB, which is great, and it reduces inflammation. But ginger is also bringing a little something extra to the table, which is that it's going to help you with any type of digestive issues. Because something that some people run into is that when they're drinking this much turmeric, they can have kind of an upset stomach. Most people, aren't really having that much turmeric at any one time. So what happens with the ginger is it has a very synergistic effect of being able to calm the stomach so that you can process all of that curcumin, all that turmeric, and get the maximum benefit and be able to have higher doses of turmeric. But, some people don't have an upset stomach. But it is good to have the ginger in there because the gingerol is also good for you. And what's cool about using the powdered ginger is that while this is our first tier, the best tier, because in our tier system, we kind of upgrade. But even in our first tier, having the ginger is cool because it's not necessarily a downgrade when it comes to ginger, having this powdered version. Because with ginger, when you turn it into a powder, some of those gingerols convert into shogo. I think I'm saying that right. But this is like a more potent version of the same thing. I think you can also convert to shogo by putting ginger in water and extracting at like 200 degrees. We're not going to do that. And you don't necessarily have to do that to get benefits, but that is usually how it's converted to the more potent version. So having the powder already, we've already got some of both versions of that, and this is great because it means it's not necessarily worse, it's just different, and in some ways it is better or can help add more. You can do both if you want. Okay, so now that we've got this, we just add 8 ounces of water, or you can use like milk if you want. Traditionally, people will use coconut milk because coconuts are truly, honestly, like that's another thing. Like I wish I had like a more themed place, but that's like right there on the potion shelf should just be like a rack of fresh coconuts. The things a coconut is so good for you. I won't even get into it because I'll go on such a tangent and I already have to edit so much from this. But, so either traditionally coconut milk, you can have any type of milk in this, but water is also fine. That's why you would use your coconut milk powder so that, powder form, just add water is what this is right now. So if you didn't do the coconut milk, you could use the coconut oil, and then of course you can put milk, water, whatever. Alright, so let's make this up. Okay, so I've got this double boiling in the mason jar. I've got my little silicone lid that I bought, I've got another one up here, so I have no chance of any metal interactions with my little potion. Although, if you do have a metal lid, I'm sure you're fine. I just probably wouldn't get in the habit of boiling within a metal vessel. So as this gets hot, it's going to allow me to stir everything and everything will mix together, because if you have done this, you might notice everything is very clumpy when you start, but once the heat is added, you'll be able to mix everything in there very easily. You're going to want to put the stove on medium. If your stove runs hot, I would say low-ish, but medium is fine. If you have a temperature control, or if you're doing, the electric kettle, then you want to have it around 170 degrees and not any hotter. A little cooler could be okay, but 170 is like the perfect temperature. This allows you to not have anything in there burning and degrading or deactivating, that kind of thing, but also allows it to be hot enough to help the process of extracting and really getting that stuff into your little potion for you, right?